Yes, hello. Hi, can everyone hear me? Hello. Sorry for the delay, guys. Tech difficulty and all. Mahi Sound check, sound check. Yes, hello, sound check. Hello. Hello, sound check. Hello. How about that? Mahina pa ba? Sound check. Hello. Wow, thank you. Thank you at meron na tayong sticker. Hello Jane, maraming salamat. Bro Christian, thank you for waiting. Sound check. Sound check, sound check. Sound check. Present sounds better. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Konti pa. Okay, sige. Pagbigyan natin si Dante Ting Jr. Konti pa. How about that, bro? Ayan. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I know it's a weekend. I'm doing better than yesterday. Can everyone tell me where you are watching from? Nasan kayo ngayon? GCQ, how are you? Yes, shout out sa mga taga Mindanao. Hello, how are you in the down south? Kamusta kayo diyan? Manila, hello Zamboanga. Yes, from Davao. Cebu, Cavite, Zambales, hello. Kamusta ang Central Luzon? Baguio. Watching from Agusan, hello Ramchand, Kaitor. All right. Quick question guys, nakikita nyo ba yung description? Can everyone see the description box tapos yung links below? Northern Samar, hello. Kent. Hi May from Tacloban. CDO, hello. Jane Offenda from Pasig City, hello. Maraming salamat sa sticker. I appreciate every time you tag me sa Facebook. So question, can you see the description box? And if yes, can you read? Good. For tonight, if you can read the description box, there are links there. For tonight's discussion, of course, you will need a copy of the Civil Code, syempre. Tapos, a copy of the revised penal Code. We'll be discussing some of that later. Habang naghihintay pa tayo ng mga sasama pa, uh, let's do some questions. Anything you want to ask before we start? Hintayin natin ang mga late. Yes, agree. Mark Emmanuel Lazatin. Summer in summer enrollment, it's going to be for sure super crazy times. Kasi most law schools are well, on paper they are equipped to handle online enrollment, but in practice, wow, far from it. Malayo-layo pa tayo sa ganun. Super far from it. Ano po ang next topic after ng persons? Well, it's probably either going to be political law, let's do constitutional law 1 and 2, or criminal law. There is a separate series. I'm actually doing obligations and contracts. The videos are ready. Tapos they are in some other platform which I will not promote, not right now at least. Ilang taon na ako in real life? Well, I'd actually say I'm old. Very old. Previous laws stated, will all previous laws stated in the Constitution and the Codals be considered invalid? It really depends kung ano ang Constitution natin. So, if there is a change in the form of government, well, of course, the admin code has to adapt. Once a bill becomes a law, can the Supreme Court announce that it is unconstitutional? Jurisdiction, the power of the courts to pass upon the validity of and the constitutionality of a law, is a dormant power, it is said. Dormant siya in the sense na it does not take effect unless it is triggered. So until and unless someone comes to court and questions directly the constitutionality, and there is no other way for the courts to decide the case without passing upon the issue of constitutionality, then it remains. Then that is the only time that there will be a challenge to the constitutionality of a law. My favorite subject in law school? Naku, marami yan. Hindi, joke lang. Labor for me was very personal because it was part of my employment. Civil procedure and then most of remedial law, favorite ko because I actually taught myself remedial law before I had to take remedial law inside the classroom. Inuna ko ng inaral at tinuruan yung sarili ko. Amendment sa remedial law, naku, marami nang nag-discuss niyan. Hardest subject for me would probably be actually civil law. I struggled a lot with civil law, particularly agency, trusts, and partnership. I also struggled with property. Those are very difficult subjects for me during my time in law school because that was the time when I had to change to a new job. Sobrang nahirapan akong mag-adjust at that time. I don't think mahirap tong dalawang subjects na to, but possibly nahirapan ako kasi hindi ko nabibigyan ng oras. Conflicts is also one of those subjects na muntik akong bumagsak. Anti-terror bill, let's discuss that later. After ng lecture, yes? Yes, let's discuss that later. How hard is remedial law compared to other law subjects? I think remedial law is very unique in the sense that wala siyang parang darating kasi ang remedial law sa buhay natin sa law school after we have been given so much substantial law such that ang lagi nating sagot, ang default nating pagsagot is always based on substantial law. However, remedial law is the study of moves, counter moves, and counter moves. hindi ka pwedeng sumagot ng galing sa substantial law. Say, the question is a contract of lease. Kung sumagot ka based on the law on lease, baka mali yan kasi you will have to answer based on remedial law. Ano po ang recommended materials or books nyo for advanced reading in criminal procedure? Well, I did not use any textbook for criminal procedure. Codal lang, codal at maraming kaso. Rob Iglesias, maraming salamat pero there's a very good chance na hindi kita magiging estudyante. I do not want to study, no plans actually to teach sa College of Law. English, remedial English, ang sagot lang dyan, Gruber's. Gruber's is a very old book. When I had to teach remedial English sa mga OJT at interns namin sa dati kong trabaho, I used Gruber's a lot. Napaka-useful niya. It's hard to find a copy in the Philippines. I'm sure there's a PDF of that somewhere on the internet, but I cannot directly tell you to download. Naku, maraming salamat, May Kismundo. I try to explain the law as best as I could. I'm trying to explain the law for people who are not lawyers or who have not read the material or who have basically zero understanding of the law. But as we progress, the discussion becomes more technical. I still promise na gagawin ko ang lahat to make it as simple and as understandable as possible. Prohibitory and mandatory laws, we have covered that. I think it's in part 3 or 4 of this series. Pwede mo siyang balikan doon, bro. Okay, political law. For political law review, the Book of Natura, it's not going to discuss much in the way of principles, pero mabibigyan kayo ng guidelines, guide questions. Basta Natura and a lot of cases. As you will know, kung nasa political law ka na, wala namang mahirap. Wala namang mahirap sa constitutional law. Matrabaho lang talaga. Mahahaba yung kaso. Thoughts on online classes? Well, I'm preparing an episode for that. And it's a very hard episode to write, honestly. I think people have to meet somewhere in the middle. Kailangan nating tanggapin na not every professor who teaches in law school is there to educate. Some of them, to a certain extent, are there for, MCLE exceptions, pwede ring for their ego, and some of them can lecture for so many hours. Others are there to terrorize. And that's a part of law school. As we transition into the new normal, the blended learning, students have to adjust and professors also have to adjust. It's a tough episode to write. I'm planning to put it out before the end of this month. Pero mahirap. Mahirap magsabi na huwag kang mag-enroll. Mahirap din naman magsabi na, yes, mag-enroll ka na. Okay, sige. We now have a significant number of people in the room. I think that's enough for questions. Let's start. Thank you everyone for joining me for tonight's lesson. Tonight's discussion is very important because this is the beginning of the conflict of laws provisions of the Civil Code. Conflict of laws is a 2 or 3 unit subject in law school. It isn't taken up until you reach your third year, but I am introducing this to you now, because the provisions will help you gain a higher understanding of the law as you work your way through constitutional law, public international law, statutory construction, and criminal law. In some law schools, this course is also called private international law because it deals primarily with the rights of private individuals both here and abroad. It is only offered during your third year because this course requires na pasado ka na, kapatid, ng persons and family relations, ng wills and succession, at ng civil procedure. Some schools of course will have very different prerequisites. Maraming bumabagsak sa klase namin. Maraming bumagsak sa klase namin sa conflicts, kapatid. Nagsimula kasi ang semester na 6 lang kami sa klase. Tapos nag-drop yung magjowa sa likuran at kaya naging 4 na lang kami. May balita na madi-dissolve daw kami, pero buti na lang at na-appoint to a higher court ang professor ng kabilang section. Sila ngayon ang lumipat at naging mga 30 persons na kami. By the end of the semester, around 24 or 28 students remained. Marami-rami din ang nag-drop sa klase namin dahil terror ang professor namin. Lagi siyang naninigaw kahit na wala sa tamang lugar. But looking back, wala naman din sigurong katanggap-tanggap na dahilan para manigaw ka sa loob ng isang kwarto na napakaliit lang naman. Palagi siyang nagagalit sa amin dahil feeling niya may nagkokopyahan tuwing quiz at may bumubulong tuwing recitation. I honestly cannot say for sure kung meron man because I was always seated in front. Madalas siyang magalit sa amin pero during the meeting before the finals, she decided to reward about 6 or 7 of us who were present during the last meeting. She began to lecture on the more important parts of the course. Paulit-ulit niyang sinasabi to na ito lalabas sa finals dahil gagawin ko na ang exam nyo when I dismiss you. True enough, she sent us home early that night and all that she discussed during that meeting she asked during the final exams. The best book I can recommend for this course is the book that your professor actually prescribes. Maging malinaw na tayo dyan, kapatid. Alangan akong sumagot sa mga tanong kung anong book ang gagamitin sa ganito. Dahil ang mapapayo ko lang, kapatid, ay maghintay ka ng sasabihin ng professor. About 8 to 12,000 pesos din ang libro sa isang semester at pwedeng tumaas pa yan kung maluho ka na tulad ko na gusto ko 2 ang libro ko kung kaya lang din naman ng naiipon ko. The book I read for the course is the book of Justice Sempiodi. Naging professor ko sa Constitutional Law 2 yung anak niya and I can honestly say it was some of my best time in law school. In the book of Justice Sempiodi, she defines conflict of laws as that part of the law that comes into play when the issue before the court affects some fact, event, or transaction. Tatandaan, fact, event, or transaction that is so clearly connected with a foreign system of law as to necessitate recourse to that system. Conflict of laws ang subject kung saan inaaral natin kung anong batas ang dapat mag-a-apply sa isang set of facts, event, or transaction. Kung parehong Pilipino ang involved at ang lupa na kanilang napagkasundo ang bilhin ay nasa Pilipinas, walang issue dito, kapatid. Tanging civil code ng ating bansa ang mag-a-apply. For this course to apply, there must always be a foreign element. A foreign element is a fact, event, or transaction that takes place outside of Philippine territory. Sa conflict of laws, nasasagot kung valid ba ang kasal ng 2 Pilipino na nagbakasyon sa New York. Kung pwede bang magmana ng lupa ang isang US citizen born of Filipino parents at ang lupa ay matatagpuan sa Talisay, Batangas. Now let's go to the conflict of laws provisions of the Civil Code. Pero roll intro muna tayo. Hi, my name is Lex and welcome to Lex in Motion. In this channel, I'll be helping you build your competence, confidence, and capability in law school. Start today by hitting the subscribe button below. New episodes are posted every Friday. Article 14 of the Civil Code provides that penal laws and those of public security and safety shall be obligatory upon all who live or sojourn in Philippine territory, subject to the principles of public international law and to treaty stipulations. Wait lang kapatid, tech difficulties. Wait lang. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to Article 14 of the Civil Code. Sa unang tingin kapatid ay parang out of place ang provision na ito sa batas. Ang bungad kasi niya, penal laws. Di dapat sa revised penal code siya. However, Article 14 of the Civil Code lays down for us the principle of territoriality. The principle of territoriality means that our laws, penal laws, laws that affect public safety and security shall be obligatory upon all who live in or sojourn in the Philippine territory. Penal laws, those of public security and safety, medyo madali na yang intindihin kapatid. Ibig sabihin lang yan ay ang mga batas na naglalatag at nagpaparusa ng mga krimen sa ating bansa. Ang mga GCQ at MGCQ guidelines, these are rules that affect public safety. Applying Article 14, then they should be applicable to those who live in the Philippines or who are staying here. Second part of the provision tells us that these rules, these laws, and these guidelines are by express provision of the law obligatory or they must be followed by anyone and everyone who lives in the Philippines. Damay din dito ang mga bisita ng bansa, mga turista, mga diplomats, ambassadors at consuls at maging mga empleyado ng POGO. The laws on public safety and security are equally applicable to anyone and everyone within Philippine territory. Kaya siya tinawag na principle of generality dahil galing ito sa isang international law principle. It makes certain laws of the land applicable for all those who are present and are actually living in the Philippines. Philippine law therefore does not only apply to Filipinos who are in the Philippines but also to citizens of other nations who are in the Philippines. Halimbawa, kung naaalala nyo from a few years ago, ang kaso ni Nicole from Subic. This is not a Supreme Court case, kapatid, kaya hindi na natin siya mababasa in full. Anyone here who remembers yung kaso ni Nicole from the mid-2000s? Nicole was allegedly gang raped by 4 members of the U.S. Marines. Naturally, they are not citizens of the Philippines but of the United States. She was raped because she was too drunk, too intoxicated to give her consent. She later pointed out that only one serviceman actually raped her and she named him, and it was Lance Corporal Daniel Smith. Whenever I read criminal law cases, and actually most cases, I try to remember the facts as a series of comic strips, thumbnail sketches or storyboards, parang comics lang. This helps me remember kung sino ang pumatay, sino ang kasama, at saan kunwari nasaksak. For what it's worth, I also try to Google the names of the parties. Nakalimutan ko na kung sinong prof ang nagsabi ng tip na to. Kung may image daw sila, he says, mas madali mong maaalala. Now, going back to the case, Lance Corporal Daniel Smith is a U.S. citizen, but by virtue of the principle of generality, meaning our penal laws apply to anyone and everyone inside of Philippine territory, he was convicted of the rape of Nicole by the regional trial court and sentenced to life in prison. However, this conviction was later overturned by the Court of Appeals, and he was allowed to go back to the U.S. as a free man. The principle of generality is also the principle behind why foreigners in the Philippines can be apprehended and convicted for crimes like child prostitution, child abuse, and human trafficking. I'm sure may mga nababalitaan kayong ganyan. Ang principle behind that is generality. Nilalahat ang lahat ng nandito sa Pilipinas. Let's continue reading Article 14 of the Civil Code. Subject to the principles of public international law and to treaty stipulations. This phrase contains the exceptions to the principle of generality. The general rule is that the principle of generality and the general rule is the principle of generality and the exceptions are sulat, kapatid, number 1, principles of public international law. 2, treaty stipulations. 3, laws of preferential application. Simulan natin sa principles of international law. International law is a separate subject that is under political law. Muntik akong bumagsak dito, kapatid. Hindi dahil mahirap ang subject, kundi dahil matrabaho siya. Kain sa oras ang bawat kaso at hindi naman din ako natatapos. One of the principles you will learn under this course is the principle of equality among nations. This means that on the international level, all states, lahat ng bansa, no matter how small or how large, no matter their economic performance or sheer number of people living in their territory, lahat ng bansa, pantay-pantay. Dahil sa principle of equality, tinuturing ng bawat bansa na kapantay lang niya ang iba pang mga bansa. Dahil pantay lang tayo sa ibang bansa, Uganda, Zimbabwe at Sweden, the heads of their states, presidents, prime ministers, cannot be the subject of Philippine law. This means that if the president of Uganda were to commit a crime in the Philippines, he cannot be punished by Philippine law. Mahirap tanggapin, kapatid, pero immune siya from criminal prosecution. For the same reasons, ambassadors, take note, ambassadors or public ministers and their official retinue are also immune from criminal prosecution. They cannot be sued or arrested or punished by the law of our country. They are, strictly speaking, at medyo mahirap tanggapin, they are acting as the direct representatives or alter egos of the head of the state. Thus, the immunity conferred upon the president will also apply equally to ambassadors or public ministers and their official retinue, mga kasama sa foreign trips. In the case of Rodolfo Schneckenberger versus Manuel Moran, the judge of the Court of First Instance of Manila, CFI, kapatid ang dating tawag, sa Regional Trial Court, and you will encounter this in so many old cases. This was decided in 1936. In this case, si Rodolfo Schneckenberger ay isang accredited consul mula sa bansang Uruguay. Huli sa kasong falsification of a public document. Sabi niya, consul siya at hindi dapat CFI ang mag-trial sa kaso niya. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that consuls are not among the protected class. They can be tried as ordinary citizens. Ang practical effect, kapatid, walang diplomatic immunity ang mga consul. Second exception, the principle of generality, meaning our penal laws may be altered or modified by treaty stipulations. Kung naaalala nyo pa ang Visiting Forces Agreement o ang deal ng US at ng Pilipinas kung saan tutulungan ng US ang Philippine Armed Forces sa gamit, armas at training. Part ng stipulation ng VFA na ang mga US personnel at contractors na lalabag sa ating mga penal laws ay mapaparusahan sa bisa ng Philippine law. Dito tumawad ang US dahil gusto nila kanila ang jurisdiction, kanila ang trial at kanila rin ang service ng penalty. Or sa US makukulong kung nag-commit ng crime dito sa Pilipinas. Ang ending ay nagkita ang dalawang bansa sa gitna. According to the VFA, the Philippines will retain jurisdiction over US personnel and contractors who commit crimes in the Philippines. However, the US will still have custody over the accused, at least during the trial. If they are convicted at ito ay gray area, the penalty must be served within Philippine soil. In this regard, you have to remember the case of Jennifer Laufe. Anyone here na nakakaalala sa case ni Jennifer Laufe? In the case of Jennifer Laude, Joseph Scott Pemberton is a U.S. Marine who was part of the troops in Olongapo City who were there for a joint military exercise between the U.S. and the Philippines under the VFA. On one night, si Pemberton was allowed to unwind in one of the many bars in Olongapo City with friends. There he met Jeffrey Laude, who was a transgender woman who went by the name of Jennifer Laude. According to the news report, sayang kasi kung Supreme Court decision ito, kapatid, mas malinaw yung kwento. According to one news report, nagkakilala sila, nag-inuman at nagpunta sa isang motel. There, Joseph Scott Pemberton was shocked to find out that Jennifer was also Jeffrey. Pemberton insists that he did not kill Jennifer, but these are the pieces of evidence presented by the prosecution. Una, Jennifer suffered bruises. Meron siyang pasa sa kanyang leeg na parang sinakal siya. She also suffered multiple lacerations on her face, arms, legs, and body. She also had deep cuts on her forehead that suggested that she suffered blunt force trauma, inuntog o pinalo ng matigas na bagay. Finally, the official cause of her death was drowning. Nalunod siya from the water of the toilet bowl. The Regional Trial Court of Olongapo City convicted Joseph Scott Pemberton for the crime of homicide, not of murder, as earlier alleged by the prosecution. They found that the elements of treachery and cruelty were not sufficiently proven. He was sentenced to 12 years in jail. This case is now currently pending under the Court of Appeals. Ngayon kapatid, balikan natin ang principle of generality. Kung ikaw ay nasasakdal sa isang kasong kriminal, hindi ka makakalabas ng bilangguan except under bail. Specific ang Bureau of Corrections kung saan ka dapat dadalhin. However, because of the exception to the principle of generality, the VFA provides that U.S. servicemen accused of crimes under the Philippine law are to be detained in compounds where there are both U.S. and Filipino marshals who can secure the accused. Third exception, laws of preferential application. While the principles of generality apply to all who live and sojourn in the Philippines, it is possible that some of them will not apply or will apply differently. Under our tax laws, certain provisions which should apply to Filipinos working for a particular resident foreign corporation are applied differently. Some of them affect entire corporations. Heto ang tinatawag ng batas na laws of preferential application. Maaring mas mataas o mas mababa ang tax ng isang empleyado na expat. Ang practical effect nito kapatid ay kahit na nasa Pilipinas ang isang German consultant, he should be bound by Philippine tax laws. But because of this recognized exception, he could be taxed at largely different rates. Also under Article 14 of the Civil Code is the principle of territoriality. First principle, generality. Second is territoriality. Ibig sabihin kapatid, kapag ang crime ay nangyari sa Pilipinas, punishable siya sa Pilipinas. However, there are certain instances when a crime is committed outside of the territory of the Philippines but may nevertheless be punished by our courts. Alam ko kapatid na excited ka ng mag-advance reading at advance learning at kaya nandito ka ngayon. If this is your motivation why you're here, please type yes in the live chat. Sa iyong advance reading at advance learning, malamang ay nabasa mo na rin ang Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code. Kung may kopya ka ngayon ng RPC, buksan mo na kapatid at ituloy natin ang discussion. Ang sarap sana nito kapatid kung naririnig ko din kayo. I hope we have something like that in the future. Pero dahil walang volunteer, meron bang volunteers who can tell us about Article 2? Tingin tayo. Yes, can you copy and paste sa live chat ang Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code? Para kunwari feels like recitation tayo. Anyone? Yes. Okay, Article 2 provides that application of its provisions at ang tinutukoy dito ay ang Revised Penal Code. Except as provided in the treaties and laws of preferential application, the provisions of this code shall be enforced not only within the Philippine archipelago, including its atmosphere, its interior waters and maritime zone, but also outside of its jurisdiction against those who, number 1, should commit an offense while on a Philippine ship or airship, 2, should forge or counterfeit any coin or currency note of the Philippine Islands or obligations, 3, should be liable for acts connected with the introduction of into these islands of the obligations and securities mentioned in the preceding number, 4, while being public officers or employees, should commit an offense in the exercise of their functions, or number 5, should commit any of the crimes against national security and the law of nations defined in Title 1 of Book 2 of this code. I'd love to discuss this with you, kapatid, pero kung bubuksan natin ito, ay magtatagal tayo sigurado. What I would like to point out to you is that paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 provides that there is criminal liability for offenses committed while on board a Philippine ship or airship. Ang isang eroplano o isang barko ay isang movable property. It is capable of locomotion. Pwedeng sa araw na ito ay nakadaong sa Pilipinas at naglanding sa Pasay City. Walang issue dito, kapatid. Pilipinas pa rin yan. Pero paano kung nasa international waters or nakadaong ang isang Philippine vessel sa Ecuador at merong crime na naganap? Who will have jurisdiction? Is it the Ecuadorian court or the Filipino court? Let's see some hands. Zoom tayo next time. Pwede. Magkape tayo sa Zoom. If that's at all possible. Thank you, Jane. Pero parang yan na yung limit ng characters. Yes. Who will have jurisdiction? Is it the Ecuadorian court or the Philippine court? By legal fiction, and you will later learn this concept in public international law, the embassies of various states, although standing on Philippine soil, are part of the property of that particular state. Sa parehong paraan, ang isang eroplano o barko flying under the Philippine flag and registered under our laws, kahit saang bansa pa yan, is still, by legal fiction, part of Philippine territory. Paragraph 2. Forgery or counterfeiting any coin or currency note of the Philippines kung pineke ang 1,000 peso bill at ang pamemeke ay nangyari kunwari sa Vietnam. Liable ang nag-counterfeit nito, ang nameke under Philippine laws at siya ay mahaharap sa kasong counterfeiting dito sa Pilipinas. Kahit na nangyari ang pamemeke sa ibang bansa, it is nevertheless a crime that is committed against the Philippines. Sa bawat criminal case na mababasa mo, kapatid, laging ang title niyan ay People of the Philippines versus XXX. Ang pamimeke ng pera natin, kahit pa naganap sa ibang bansa ay isa pa ring krimen laban sa people of the Philippines. Ang sarap sanang i-discuss na rin ang introduction to criminal law 1 at kung gusto mo nang simulan natin yan, type yes in the live chat. Isa pang classic na exception sa principle of territoriality ay matatagpuan sa Human Security Act of 2007. What I'm going to discuss next, kapatid, and I know it's a bad example, but it's also a perfect opportunity for us to learn the law together. House Bill number 6875. I've provided a link to that in the description down below. Kung kaya ay buksan nyo muna ang copy ng House Bill 6875. House Bill number 6875 is not yet a law. As of today, it's not a law. The full title is an act to prevent, prohibit, and penalize terrorism, thereby repealing Republic Act number 9372 or the Human Security Act of 2007? First question, kapatid, is the House Bill an amendment or repeal? First question is the amendment. Is the House Bill an amendment or repeal? Is it an amendment or repeal? Okay, let's see some answers. Ed Charles Pasha, repeal po. Angelo Ginto, repeal. Jewan Azarcon, repeal. Ed Charles Pasha, repeal dahil papalitan niya ang HSA. Okay, if you say it's a repeal, is it an express repeal or an implied repeal? What kind of repeal? Because House Bill number 6875 specifically mentions Republic Act number 9372 or the Human Security Act of 2007, it is an express repeal. Scroll down your copies. Baba, at tignan natin ngayon ang Section 4, Terrorism, subject to Section 49. Section 4 provides, Section 4, Terrorism. Subject to Section 49 of this Act, terrorism is committed by any person who, within or outside of the Philippines, regardless of the stage of execution, ... And then the law proceeds to define acts which are all within the concept of terrorism. The House Bill makes a clear exception to the principle of territoriality. Ordinarily, our penal laws are only applicable to acts committed inside Philippine territory. Under Section 4 of the House Bill, it extends the applicability to any person within or outside of the Philippines. Now, if we read that in connection with Section 49, the House Bill, take note kapatid, paulit-ulit ko siyang tinatawag na House Bill, hindi siya law. The House Bill provides that jurisdiction shall be acquired when the person enters our territory. I think that is the end of my discussion on Article 14 of the Civil Code. Today, we learned about the principle of generality and the exception to this rule. We learned about the principle of equality among nations, why heads of states and ambassadors incur no criminal liability. We also learned about the principles of territoriality and why some crimes, although committed outside of the Philippines, are nevertheless punishable under our Philippine law. Let's now open the floor to questions. Medyo may delay, parang nauuna ako sa inyo versus sa nakikita ko sa live chat. So, let's open the floor to questions. Anything you'd like to ask na nakakurious na kayo, fine. Go ask them. Tapos pili tayo ng ilang tanong. Yes, Mark Emmanuel Lazatin, you are correct. It is a House Bill kasi wala pang pirma ng Presidente or wala pang 30 days upon submission to the President. Actually, a President has 3 options when it comes to a law. He can either sign it into law or refuse, and that power is called the veto power when he says no to the law. And the third option, he can let it lapse into law. The period is 30 days. It is in effect parang nagpe-prescribe ang law into validity. Uh, Several presidents have done this to very controversial pieces of legislation. During the time of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, marami rin din siyang hinayaan na lang. Ganun lang din kay si President Aquino, yung si President Noynoy, he also let a few controversial pieces of law lapse into law. They do this when the law is particularly divisive. Kapag the law puts all of us, the people of the Philippines, in an awkward situation na nahahati tayo, which I really think should not be the case. When we are divided along political lines, ideologies, beliefs, they will as a general rule let it lapse into law para hindi nila nasabi na pinlis nila itong side na to or tinanggihan nila yung kabilang side. May mga constitutional issues ba ang anti-terrorism bill, if ever? Yes, there are. Yes, there are. As is where is, maraming questions on constitutionality. Ang mag-a-apply likely would be the overbreadth doctrine, something I'd like to discuss in future episodes. Sige. Is it constitutionally infirm as is where is? No, not right now. Pero tignan natin when it lapses or it's signed into law, or let's look at the implementing rules and regulations. Nandun naman din tayo nagkakaroon ng issue. Good question. Section 4 says within or outside. It creates a specific exception na acts of terrorism, if they are done within the Philippines, definitely they fall under Section 4 of 687 House Bill 6875. Pero by express provision of the law, if they are committed outside of the Philippines, and some of the acts can only be committed outside of the Philippines, they are nevertheless punishable. Ine-expand ang mga exceptions na meron tayo under. Actually, hindi naman niya ine-expand eh. Pasok pa rin dun sa paragraph 5. Yun lang din ang basis ng Human Security Act. Bakit pwede siyang punishable outside of the Philippines? Parang the thinking behind the law is that assuming na nang hijack ka ng isang eroplano at umalis kayo ng NAIA, tapos nag-declare kayo ng hijack, you're over the airspace of Malaysia. Parang wala na bang jurisdiction ng Pilipinas in that situation? Parang ganun lang. The House Bill as is where is right now, it's an awfully divisive issue. Parang nahahati talaga tayo where we are, where we stand. It's hard to say right now if it's a good law or a bad law, if someone will challenge it to the Supreme Court. I think the very first requirement that you have to have before you challenge the constitutionality is that there must be direct injury or something that actually threatens your right. Before I forget, mga kapatid, what will happen if an ambassador commits a crime in the Philippines? Diba, na-establish na natin na ambassadors enjoy diplomatic immunity. What will happen if they commit a crime within the Philippines? I tried looking for a Supreme Court case where an ambassador commits a crime. Dahil nga merong diplomatic immunity, technically speaking, hindi talaga siya abot ng Supreme Court. But if I remember correctly, in the early 90s, there was a series of crimes committed by diplomats. Mga diplomats or yung retinue nila na nanggulpe ng mga Filipino living in the Philippines. Ang ginawa sa kanila, pinaalis lang ng Pilipinas at dineklara silang mga persona non grata. Hindi na sila makakabalik ngayon sa Pilipinas. Now, hypothetically, kung Filipino ambassador naman ang may crime sa Dubai, kunwari, then by the principles of international law, wala pa rin siyang crime under Emirati law. Under the laws of Dubai, he will not incur criminal liability, at least theoretically. Pag uwi niya, pwede siyang maging criminally liable under paragraph 4 of Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code. Diplomatic immunity is really depends on the nature of the crime committed. They will incur to a certain extent civil liability pa rin. But that is for a separate discussion in a future video. Okay, any other questions? If there are no more questions, I invite you now to take the quiz. You can find the link in the description box of the live stream. Scroll down, just take the quiz. Wala tayong kaso ngayon. I have made it extremely easy. This quiz is extremely easy. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. Like and share this video for Good Law School Karma, and I will see you next Friday.